I'm a landscape architect in Brisbane, and last month I worked on a property for an American family who just transferred here. The husband walked into my backyard unannounced with an envelope. Inside was a handwritten invitation on thick cardstock with a wax seal requesting the honor of my presence at a casual backyard barbecue. The thing had RSVP instructions and a dress code section that said semi-formal attire preferred. I thought he was joking about some embassy function. He wasn't. He showed up Saturday in a blazer and tie, holding a covered casserole dish like he was attending a wake, while the rest of us stood around in shorts and thongs drinking tinnies. His wife wore heels that kept sinking into the lawn. My cousin manages a butcher shop in Johannesburg. American customer walked in requesting premium cuts for what he kept calling a formal outdoor dining event. He needed recommendations for a 7-course braai menu with wine pairings for each meat. My cousin thought he meant a wedding reception. The American clarified it was just Saturday afternoon with neighbors. He'd drawn up a seating chart. For a braai, he wanted to know if my cousin could provide little flags to label each type of boerewors so guests wouldn't confuse the lamb with the beef. He said mixing proteins on one plate was improper, and he'd read that in a South African etiquette guide from 1887. My cousin sold him the meat and 3 industrial-size coolers to keep the courses separated by temperature. My brother-in-law teaches secondary school in Manila. He invited his American neighbor to a weekend inihaw at his parents' place. The American arrived carrying a wooden presentation box. Inside were name cards for everyone, handwritten in calligraphy. He'd researched proper Filipino honorifics and addressed my brother-in-law's father as the most honorable senior patriarch and his mother as esteemed matriarch of the household. He set up the cards on little easel stands he'd brought, arranged by what he called proper hierarchical seating protocol. He'd consulted 3 books about pre-colonial Filipino social structures and was convinced skewered pork required designated seating based on familial rank. He kept asking when the receiving line would form. There wasn't one. This was 12 people standing around a grill eating meat off stick. I'm a civil engineer in Copenhagen. My American colleague got invited to a classic Danish havefest. She emailed the host 3 times asking what the formal arrival window was, because she'd read Danes valued punctuality. The host said show up whenever after 4. She interpreted that as 4 sharp meant disrespectfully early and 4:15 meant offensively late, so she arrived at exactly 4:07, which she'd calculated as the mathematically optimal midpoint. She'd set a timer. She also brought a leather-bound guest book she'd special ordered and asked everyone to sign it with their full legal name and a memory from the event. The party had been going for 8 minutes. Nobody had memories yet. She told the host that in Denmark formal entertaining required documented evidence of attendance for tax purposes. She'd made that up entirely. The host just wanted people to eat hot dogs and drink Tuborg. I work at a community center in Nairobi. We organized a Nyama Choma fundraiser for the local school. An American volunteer showed up with printed programs listing the order of events, including designated mingling periods and scheduled appreciation speeches. She'd created a timeline with 5-minute intervals. She kept checking her watch and announcing transitions like we were at a corporate conference. She told people when it was time to stop eating and begin the gratitude segment. She'd prepared remarks. She stood on a plastic chair and delivered a 7-minute speech about the importance of structured community gatherings and how in America backyard events always included formal recognition of the host. She thanked everyone individually by name, which took another 11 minutes because she mispronounced half of them. She said spontaneous socializing was inefficient and that all outdoor meals required a master of ceremonies to maintain decorum. We were grilling goat in someone's yard. My uncle runs a guest house in Reykjavik. American tourist asked to join our family barbecue during summer solstice. We told him to come by around 8. He arrived in a three-piece suit carrying a briefcase full of gifts, each individually wrapped with ribbons and attached cards explaining the cultural significance. He'd brought Icelandic books he'd never read, local crafts he'd bought that morning, and a bottle of wine that cost more than our grill. He presented each item with a small speech about international friendship. He'd prepared notes on index cards. Then he asked where he should place his jacket during the meal, because he didn't want to commit a faux pas by draping it improperly over furniture. He'd consulted a 1950s etiquette manual about Nordic dining customs. It said men must keep their suit jackets on until the hostess gives explicit permission to remove them. My aunt told him we don't have a hostess, we're eating pilsner in the driveway. He kept his jacket on for 3 hours. It was 18 degrees. I'm a software developer in Buenos Aires. My American coworker got invited to an asado at my place. He showed up wearing dress shoes and slacks with a pressed shirt. Everyone else was in shorts and sandals. He'd brought monogrammed linen napkins as a hostess gift, set of 12 with little silver napkin rings. He said he understood Argentine culture valued refined table settings even for outdoor meals. He'd read that gauchos used to dine formally on the pampas. He arranged his napkins on our plastic fold-out table and showed everyone the proper napkin folding technique for casual al fresco dining, which apparently involved a shape called the bishop's hat. He demonstrated 3 times. Then he asked what time the servants would begin plating courses. We didn't have servants or courses. We had meat on a grill and people grabbing it when it looked done. He seemed genuinely confused about the absence of service staff for weekend barbecue. I'm a paramedic in Perth. American expat neighbor invited himself to our sausage sizzle fundraiser outside Bunnings. He showed up with a chafing dish setup, the kind with the little flames underneath, and started transferring snags into it. He said food safety protocols required maintaining precise serving temperatures and that he'd researched Australian Health Department standard. He'd brought a meat thermometer and was checking every sausage before allowing anyone to take it. He created a queue system with velvet ropes he'd sourced somewhere and made people wait in single file. He appointed himself quality control officer. He told a kid the onions weren't caramelized to proper standards and refused to serve him. The kid's mum told him to get lost. He said he was just maintaining the integrity of the outdoor dining experience and that Americans took barbecue protocol seriously. This was raising money for the rural fire service. We were selling burnt sausages in white bread for $2. My sister manages a cafe in Dublin. She invited her American boyfriend to a family barbecue in our back garden. He arrived with a binder containing printed recipes, dietary restriction cards, and a spreadsheet tracking what he called food rotation schedules. He'd color-coded everything. He insisted on inspecting all the meat before it went on the grill, checking for marbling and verifying provenance. He asked for documentation proving the beef was grass-fed Irish stock and not imported. He'd brought his own tongs that he said were calibrated for optimal meat turning technique. He demonstrated the proper 45-degree rotation method he'd learned from a competition barbecue team in Texas. He told Maida that flipping burgers more than once released essential juices and violated fundamental grilling principles that dated back to medieval cooking guild. Maida had been grilling for 40 years. The American suggested he might benefit from professional instruction. My sister dumped him the following Tuesday. I'm a taxi driver in Seoul. I got invited to a colleague's samgyeopsal party in his apartment courtyard. His American neighbor saw us setting up and asked to join. We said fine. He appeared 20 minutes later in business casual attire carrying a leather portfolio. Inside were laminated diagrams showing optimal meat placement on SAM leaves and the mathematically correct sauce-to-meat ratios. He'd created an infographic. He tried to teach us proper SAM assembly technique, explaining each step like we'd never eaten Korean food. He's been in Seoul for 3 months. I was born here. He said American barbecue science had proven there was a superior methodology for grilled meat consumption and that traditional approaches often lacked efficiency. He'd calculated that our current eating method wasted 18% of available flavor compound. He showed us pie charts. Then he asked if we had formal serving utensils because eating directly from the grill violated proper buffet protocol. We were sitting on plastic stools cooking meat on a portable burner. He wanted serving utensils. My niece works at a vineyard in Mendoza. American wine tourist joined our family barbecue after a tasting tour. He brought his own wine glasses, proper Bordeaux stems, because he said drinking wine from regular cups at outdoor events was culturally barbaric. He'd researched Argentine wine service standards. He told everyone which specific glass shape optimized which varietal and demonstrated proper swirling technique for oxygenation. He'd taken a sommelier course online. Then he started pairing wines with our asado cuts, announcing each pairing loudly and explaining the flavor profiles. Nobody asked. He told my uncle that his homemade chimichurri had improper acid balance for the malbec he'd selected and that he'd brought a backup sauce he'd prepared that morning using a pH meter. He'd adjusted it to exactly 4.2 for optimal wine compatibility. My uncle has been making chimichurri for 60 years. The American said tradition wasn't the same as precision and that modern outdoor dining required scientific rigor. He pulled out a digital scale to portion the sauce correctly. I'm a wedding photographer in Auckland. My American client asked to attend our family hangi preparation as cultural research for a shoot. She arrived with a leather notebook and started taking formal minutes of everything we did. She'd created a documentation system with timestamps and asked everyone to state their full name and relationship to the earth oven before contributing. She said traditional cooking methods required proper archival records for historical preservation. She'd brought release forms for everyone to sign, granting her rights to document our family barbecue for her professional portfolio. She wanted us to repeat certain actions so she could photograph them from better angles. She kept asking us to pause while she adjusted lighting reflectors she'd set up. She treated our Saturday afternoon like a staged cultural exhibition and seemed confused when my uncle told her to put the camera away and just eat. She said she needed to maintain professional boundaries at formal indigenous cooking demonstrations. We were making food in our backyard. I'm a postal worker in Amsterdam. I organized a borrel with grilled snacks in Vondelpark. American colleague asked for the venue's formal address so he could arrange car service. I told him it's a public park, just bike over. He said he needed exact coordinates for his driver because Amsterdam's informal approach to street navigation was confusing. He showed up in a hired Mercedes, wearing a suit, and asked where valet parking was. We were in a park. He'd assumed outdoor entertaining in European cities required professional parking services because that's how formal events work. He'd brought a fold-out chair he'd rented from an events company, the kind with armrests and a cup holder, because he said proper outdoor seating was essential for dignified dining. Everyone else sat on the grass. He remained in his chair for 3 hours, elevated above us, eating bitterballen with a knife and fork he'd brought. He said eating finger food with actual fingers at organized gatherings was unsanitary according to a catering manual he'd studied. My brother works construction in Prague. His American supervisor got invited to a weekend grill party in Stromovka. He researched public transportation routes and created a printed itinerary with backup options in case of delays. He sent it to everyone attending. The party was walking distance from the tram stop. He'd calculated 3 alternative routes and estimated arrival times accounting for variables like pedestrian traffic density. He showed up with a rolling suitcase containing what he called his outdoor entertaining essentials. A portable table, folding chairs, place settings for 12, and a battery-powered speaker for background music at precisely 62 decibels, which he said was the scientifically proven optimal volume for outdoor conversation. He'd brought a sound meter to verify. He set everything up in a designated area he'd cordoned off with caution tape. He told us proper outdoor events required defined spatial boundaries. We were using a public grill. Anyone could walk up. He seemed personally offended by the lack of perimeter security. I'm a pharmacist in Montreal. My American friend joined our cottage barbecue near Mont Tremblant. She'd never been to a cottage before and asked repeatedly if it was formal or informal. I said it's a cottage where whatever. She showed up in what she called country club casual, which meant white linen pants and a silk blouse, completely impractical for a lakeside grill situation. She'd researched Canadian cottage culture and concluded it was equivalent to American country club entertaining, just in a more rustic setting. She'd brought cocktail napkins with little maple leaves on them and insisted on using them instead of paper towels. She kept trying to organize activities, suggesting we play croquet or badminton at designated times. She'd brought equipment. She said unstructured outdoor gatherings made her anxious and that all social events needed programming to prevent awkward silences. We were sitting on a dock drinking beer and flipping burgers. She wanted a schedule. I work at a tech startup in Bangalore. We organized a weekend barbecue at our office terrace. American client was in town and joined us. He asked if we'd applied for the necessary permits for outdoor cooking in a commercial space. We told him the building management was fine with it. He seemed unconvinced and suggested we might face regulatory issues for hosting what he termed a formal catering event without proper licensing. This was 15 people grilling chicken on a portable barbecue. He'd brought copies of what he claimed were Indian food service regulations he'd downloaded, highlighting sections about commercial food preparation. He wanted to inspect our fire safety equipment and verify we had adequate liability coverage. He asked who our event insurance provider was. We didn't have event insurance. We had chicken tikka and beer. He spent 40 minutes explaining American liability law and how informal gatherings could expose us to litigation if anyone experienced food-related illness. He'd prepared a risk assessment document. He tried to get everyone to sign a waiver. My nephew teaches English in Osaka. His American predecessor left behind detailed instructions about proper behavior at neighborhood barbecues. The document was 8 pages long, laminated, with sections on gift protocol, conversation topics, and departure timing. It explained that Japanese outdoor gatherings operated like formal tea ceremonies but with grilled meat, requiring careful attention to hierarchical positioning and gift exchange rituals. My nephew's first yakitori party was at a colleague's tiny balcony. He brought an elaborate gift basket wrapped in traditional furoshiki cloth with a handwritten card in formal Japanese he'd paid someone to write. He bowed to everyone at exact angles he'd practiced. He waited to be explicitly invited to take food even though people kept telling him to just grab skewers. He wouldn't sit until the oldest person sat first. He treated the whole thing like a business dinner with the company president. Everyone else was drinking Asahi in shorts and t-shirts, eating chicken off stick. He later told me he'd studied Japanese business entertainment etiquette for 3 weeks. This was his co-worker's apartment balcony on a Sunday afternoon. My cousin manages a surf shop in Bali. American tourist asked to join our beach barbecue after a lesson. He showed up in resort where that looked like he'd studied Indonesian formal attire catalogs from luxury hotels, completely missing that we were grilling fish on the sand. He'd brought a folding table with a white tablecloth and was attempting to set it up while waves kept washing over his feet. He insisted proper beach dining required elevated surfaces and actual chairs. He'd rented chairs from somewhere. He tried to arrange them in a semicircle facing the sunset, because he'd read that Balinese culture emphasized ceremonial positioning. He kept asking when we'd begin the blessing ceremony for the food. We weren't having a ceremony. We were eating grilled fish and drinking bintang. He said that seemed disrespectful to the ingredients and offered to lead a gratitude meditation he'd learned at a wellness retreat. Half our group walked into the water to avoid him. The thing about barbecues is they're supposed to be simple. You light a fire, cook meat, and eat it with people. But some folks treat it like staging a state dinner, convinced that informal means structured casualness with proper protocols. The rest of us just want to eat a sausage without signing a waiver.